what are some of those things that you can, maybe you give them one thing?
Creativity is a pathway that is so resistant among us adults. If I say the word, you need a creative outlet right now on this podcast,
It's like I need to go dance or paint
right?
or
And what also happens is there's a clench, right? How many of you too listening, or you even Auntie, and maybe even me too, right? I'm a creative person by nature, so that word doesn't scare me. It really lights me up. But we automatically put ourselves into the category of I'm not, I can't, it's not for me.
Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Ati Greenspan. I'm a personal branding coach and business strategy, and I help you, coaches and service providers, figure it out what to post, what to do on and off social media so you can consistently get clients and grow your business. Welcome, Emily, to the Be Your Brand podcast.
I'm so excited to be here.
So I was telling you out of recording that I always like to start with the question that I believe is going to give the listeners the big bang for their listening time. But I always also feel like it's like almost like a selfish question. It's what I want to know from the people that I am interviewing. So I'm just going to shoot. Why is it important for women and specifically for business owners to actually connect with their body through sensual movement?
I would venture to even say that it's not just important, it's actually vital. It is such an untapped resource for women to be connected to their body and their sensuality. And especially for female entrepreneurs, there's just so much juice and wisdom and knowledge there. And I want to just kind of take it in like abridge it. Sensuality, tapping into our sensual body, being connected to ourselves, and using sensual movement to do that is allowing in or kind of changing out the push and go and force that maybe we feel in our day to day and when we apply ourselves to our businesses and our lives and our crazy schedules. So push and go and taking it to flow. So allowing space to, I want to use the word flow in this for today. So going from push and go to flow, baby, flow. We know that spot, right? We know that sweet spot. All of you listening, entrepreneurs, you know when you're in the flow, right? But when we invite our bodies into that practice too, there's so much more resource for us as women and business owners.
So when you are saying flow, baby, flow,
Yeah.
I know that even from my own experience, right? I'm in flow, I'm happy, I'm writing the emails. And how do you describe sensuality? Am I saying it even right? Sensuality
Yeah.
when it comes
Sensuality.
to that real, because I think that this is where women's like limiting beliefs and maybe even religious beliefs and even
Mhm.
what they believe that being professional is kind of starts kind of like, what is she talking about? Is she talking about
Right.
dancing? Is she talking about being naked in your desk? What is she talking about? Right?
Yeah. The answer is yes to all of that. Sensuality really speaks to the senses. So, taste, touch, smell, sight, and hearing. And then for those of you tapped into the spiritual realm or the esoteric realm, that's a sense as well. And we get confused with that and our sexuality. They are like a
Mm.
beautiful braid, but they are quite different. So when you talk sensuality, I really want you and those of you listening to think senses. And the way that we can pull that into our businesses is essentially setting ourselves up for that flow. And we do that by inviting in pleasure and creativity and play. And we do that through senses to invite in sensuality. But that might look like, you know what? I'm going to answer these emails in my towel. I'm going to light the good candles today. I'm going to put the water in the wine glass, right? It's really inviting in pathways that allow for fluidity and flow and enjoyment. Non-linear pathways, right? Business can get a little linear. There's a time when we do need to push and go. But the feminine approach, she is non-linear and juicy, you know?
It is non-linear and juicy. I believe that with all my heart. Okay, this is getting so juicy. So you're giving me all the intuitive hits for this conversation.
Yeah.
So you said fluidity and enjoyment. I think you used another word,
Pleasure.
but pleasure. How somebody that maybe is on the hustle I actually saw somebody's stories this morning. This is somebody I know, not from business. She's a mom, and I know
Mhm.
her from soccer, from a kid, and I saw her stories, and it was like, here grinding. And I was like, oh my God, I never think of myself as grinding. And I was like, oh, I fell for her. And I know, though, that a lot of the women listening to the podcast, and you can probably relate to this, in the first few years of business, this was me. So there is no shame. This is still me sometimes. I just have different tools. How does she invite this sensuality into her everyday so she can have more flow, more pleasure, more fluidity?
First of all, I want to say that that was me and is still me sometimes too. When we expand and we find new edges and capacity, we get a chance to reset and revisit these practices and tools. So I just want to throw that out there for everyone. And I also want to let you know it's not as far away as we think. It doesn't have to be the good candles, right? Sensuality starts by listening to our bodies. And that is embodiment. That word alone, one, a little buzzy, two, can feel far away or abstract. It is. But what I want those of you listening to kind of anchor into, like, where do you begin for those of you in the hustle and the grind? Listening is so close. So it starts like this. Put this one in your back pocket. Ready? You got to pee when you got to pee. It starts that simple.
I'm
Okay?
laughing because
So when
literally I'm
cuz why?
constantly, you and I, like, oh my God, I haven't peed all day.
Yes. I think that when it comes to sensuality and embodiment, sensual movement, just like anything out there, there's these totems, there's these visual representations that we've seen on TikTok and Instagram and movies and things like that. But coming back home to the self starts quite simply like that. When you need to eat, eat. When you got to pee, pee. When you're cold, put on a sweater. And that's how we start to wake up this tool that we have, which is
Almost
connection to
like
the sensual body. Yeah.
connection to us. And I
Yeah.
feel like so many times I actually, somebody else in the podcast, I believe it was Alessia, she was like, we're talking about productivity and we're talking about making millions of dollars and we're talking about the things, but then we are dehydrated, unnourished, unfed, like the basics of the basics.
Yes. And so we do need to start there, right? I have a lot of teachers on my team and they talk to me about all the time how they're like in the middle of their workday, they can't leave their classroom, right? So that's a separate issue. But as entrepreneurs, like, we're in the driver's seat. We took the risks, right? And it's so easy, especially as women, especially for my moms out there too, for your well-being and your mental, your physical health to go after, to be the last on the list,
Yeah,
right?
that
And
is
then
so
that gets
okay.
far away. Yeah.
Let's bring it super to the actual ground, because one of the things that I observe all the time with my clients, with some people that are not my clients, even with friends, right? We start these practices, we cognitively know, but we don't apply.
Right.
What are the underlying, and I know we're probably going to get into the realm of mindset or limiting beliefs, but like, how you specifically, right, as a facilitator and also a teacher, how do we help our people to actually apply these things, to have
Mm.
those shifts that actually have them applying this stuff?
So anyone could make a checklist, right? Okay, I gotta do all these things. But what I want to move women out of, that's a very linear, dare I say, masculine approach. It works, right? But what happens when we actually invite these vital, life giving things and let them become rituals in our life and in our business? Before I get on a call with anyone, I light it up in here. There is, I have a wealthy witch candle that I literally make. I've got incense going. I make sure I've got my water. I've gone to the bathroom. I'll still have to go 45 times on a call. But there are these moments that I have braided into my day that allow me presence and breath. And
Mm.
then I can also give that to my clients. I can be present with them and also offer them breath. And I tell you what, I know women that make a lot of money. I know women that have crazy jobs. I know women that do all the things. What I want to see in this era, this expansive place of business ownership in the feminine, is like a grounded, rested, relaxed entrepreneur too. One that's present and that lives in the body. The mind is incredible. It's so incredible. And the body is too. Sometimes we leave her out.
It's so funny because I was going to be okay. And what's on the other side of that? And you even like answered before I even said it. And I will attest. And you and I have very different rituals. But you and I have been talking every week,
Yeah.
and rituals change my life. And
Yeah.
slowing down every time I slow down, the world shows me that it's not about doing more.
Right.
Every single time. You facilitating this at Be Run Live without giving it out. I don't want you to
Mhm.
tell us what you're going to do because I want it to be a surprise. Since we are talking about money and we're talking about community this year. And for me, this is a topic that is so, so, so important. Not the money itself when it comes just to talking numbers, but to talking relationship with money. And you have your own experiences. How are you
Mhm.
using some of these embodiment practices or sensuality practices to get you out of unworthiness, fear? You take it from here.
Those two topics are wildly important to me too, and they really do go together. What's amazing about women, besides everything, is that we truly learn through resonance. So, feeling sensation and being like in it, in something together. It's like you ever ask, you put a client through something and you see that it really lands. And sometimes we'll even say, like, oh, does that land? That's resonance. Like you see it kind of anchor into the body. You watch it become no longer information, it becomes
I
knowledge.
literally watch that with you guys when I coach you. Like
Yeah.
I think I just said it like the body language, right?
Yeah.
Like when somebody's like,
Yeah.
and I usually see their shoulders. It's almost like when something clicks, their shoulders go down.
Yes, because there's so much information out there, right? You can go anywhere. That's what's amazing about the internet. You can learn, you can pick up a book, you can scroll through, you can find a PDF, right? And there's so much information that sometimes is actually overwhelming. I like to help people take information to knowledge, and then that knowledge eventually alchemizes into wisdom. And again, the felt sensation is such an untapped resource for women entrepreneurs, that sensuality, and that also speaks to intuition. How many of us have already known or done something? Like we feel it, and we all feel it in different places depending on how you're built and designed, right? Some of us feel it in our heart, some of us feel it in our throat, some of us feel it in our gut. So we all know that feeling, but then we ignore it, right? We shouldn't have worked with that client, should have said yes to that client, all of those things. So that alone is a place of like a muscle that you have to kind of work out and exercise, but it doesn't look like, just getting up and doing it. There's a lot of pathways in. So what I'm going to bring to Be You Live is a few ways to wake that up, titrate that in, get even more connected. And honestly, one of the best ways we do that is in group together. Like women
Yes.
around each other, sitting in circle is one of the most ancient things we know how to do, and it just magnifies possibility.
I am sensing that there is so many layers and it's so interlaced. So I talk with my clients and online and about my own experience all the time about the energy and the intention and the feeling with which we do something is as or more important than the action itself, right? So for example,
Right.
I have a client right now. She's just constantly overwhelmed. Now her business is growing, like literally quintuple, and she's like, "I'm overwhelmed," and I constantly keep thinking, after this one thing, everything is gonna calm down, and then I'm back into the same situation. I know I am creating this pattern, but I don't understand how I am creating it or how to even stop. So I obviously have my own thoughts about this, but I have the feeling that there is something in what you do that is so connected to this
Yeah.
that I want to hear what your thought, your opinions, your wisdom is in it.
So I just wrote something down because I don't know that I know a business owner or an entrepreneur or a woman, for what it's worth, that hasn't felt overwhelmed, overstimulated, too much on their plate. I think that we have really big capacities, and sometimes we don't even notice that until it's too late. So we need advocates and friends and coaches and good ass therapists and people that check us on that stuff too. But when it comes back to being, again, in the driver's seat of that, autonomous and making your own choices and being connected to yourself, so many of us, and I'll speak for myself too, the idea of slowing down often feels scarier than just bulldozing through all of it. You know why? Right. Because slowing
I am
down
raising my hand for those
you're
that
raising your
listen.
hand. Yeah. I'm going to raise my hand sometimes too. Honestly, it's because when you slow down, when you're used to going, it feels like shit at first. Like, it does not feel good to slow down when you're so used to going. So that slowing down can feel like a freight train crashing into a wall. And who wants to feel that? Because when we make space for more sensation, when we slow down, we have more sensation, we have more choices. But that alone can put people into lots of different places depending on your nature, your personality, your trauma history, your nervous.
I want to tell you a story because this felt so real for me. My modus operandum is constantly overbooking my calendar. If it's empty, it feels like it's always needs to be something in there.
Yeah.
In the last year or so, that has been changing dramatically by actually, this is crazy because this is just a change of perception, putting in the calendar free space, white space, by actually putting it in the calendar, which that is just a tactic. You can steal it. You can ask me on Instagram or whatever. I'll tell you all about it. However, before I arrived there, one of the things I remember vividly was trying to slow down, taking a day off, for example, like Saturday and Sunday, and be like, I'm off. And I didn't even know what to do with myself. I have a very different schedule that a lot of the people in my life, my husband works at night, my brother-in-law, my sister-in-law, they all work at night. My parents who love sleeping in, so my parents don't even wake up until like 11:30 in the morning, which is crazy to me. They're retired. My mom is turned 79. She can do whatever fuck she wants, right? But
Yes.
it
Go,
almost
mom.
felt scary that I wasn't doing enough. When I dug in,
Right.
what came up for me, what I actually chose to do was to actually fill in that time with things that made me feel good. For example, I had a list, my coach gave me a list of things that I knew from years ago that I love doing, that I constantly say, oh, I want to get back into X. And I was never doing. So then I had a list. And when I felt uneasy, I would first journal and ask myself, why do I feel uneasy? And what kept coming back to me, I'm not doing enough. I need to post on Instagram. I need to create another post. I need to send another email. And it was really cultivating the trust that what I'm doing is enough.
Yeah.
The other side of that is actually taking the fucking action, right? You actually have to do the shit.
Right. Yeah.
But what are some of those things that you can, maybe you give them one thing?
So creativity is a pathway that is so resistant among us adults. If I say the word, you need a creative outlet right now on this
The first
podcast.
thing that people are going to think is like, I need to go dance or paint or...
Right. And what also happens is there's a clinch, right? How many of you too listening, or you even Auntie, and maybe even me too, right? I mean, I'm a creative person by nature, so that word doesn't scare me. It really lights me up. But we automatically put ourselves into the category of I'm not, I can't, it's not for me, right?
Oh my God. I remember having the thought when somebody said that, like, you need a creative outlet. I was like, I don't have time for that shit.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, very successful, highly achieving, efficient business owners, women, we work that muscle, right? And so this is why too, we sometimes gravitate towards workout routines that are also asking for the push and the go. So you're taking the push and the go from your office and your boardroom and your calls, and then you're going to spin class, and then you're going to CrossFit. Not to shit on those things. They're great for your body, but it doesn't speak to the pathway that needs nurturing, which is flow. And sensual movement by nature disrupts pattern because it wants to speak to pleasure and enjoyment and fulfillment and vitality versus an end goal or a destination.
For those here in the podcast, and Emily, I don't know if you knew this, but I was a triathlete for 10 years. Did you
I
know
knew
that?
that. I did know that for a second. And you know what? I was a kickboxing instructor, a competitive cheerleader, and a competitive gymnast. So I come from a
Okay,
push
so I
background too.
almost feel like people like you and me, right? For me, there was a moment when I started slowing down that I had fear and guilt, and I even felt like, am I slacking? And I had all these things come up, and I still feel like I kind of went all the way to the other side of the pendulum sometimes, especially when it comes to body movement and exercise. Like, I am completely into yoga, meditating, walking right now, and like to the point actually that I have an injury that it's almost unexplained. You know this. This is
Mm,
for like a completely different episode that I totally believe I gave myself with my
mm.
thoughts, because there is nothing there. They keep looking and looking and looking and looking, and girl, there is nothing there. Let's actually talk to the other side, because this is one of the things that I see on Instagram, that when
Okay.
people are like, well, you have to be on your feminine, and people are like, oh,
Mm.
I'm gonna meditate and that's it. I'm like, okay, bitches, no, it's inspire action. It goes together. It needs to be inspired.
Yeah.
You have to have time for yourself, but you also have to actually do the damn shit. Can we talk about that a little bit?
I think oftentimes like femininity, feminine energy, and masculine too can be put into boxes. We're in a really interesting time where things like that are being challenged, and there's a lot of curiosity around things that used to be a little more black and white. So I kind of want to just put that there for context too. But for me, the feminine, or being in the feminine, is really a sense of presence and, again, flow. It doesn't always mean stillness. It doesn't always mean the harder vinyasa hot yoga, but it can. The embodiment portion is different for everyone. It doesn't look a certain type of way. It's not an aesthetic. And where I come from in the sensual movement, the pole dance world, something strange is happening where there's this embodiment equals sexy dancing, which is not, it's not it. It can be.
Okay, that for me, it's so important that you're saying that, because I
Yeah.
think that I use the word embodiment a lot of the times in the sense of becoming her, becoming the
Mm,
woman you want to be, becoming the business owner you want to be, embodying the traits, right, of the business owner that is relaxed, that she does her shit
yeah.
on the time that she allots herself. This is me, like the things that I journal about, right? Like, how does
Right.
she move? What kind of rituals she has in the morning? What time does she come into the office, right? Like,
Right.
and that for me is embodiment. But a lot of the times, my clients are like, I don't understand. Is this about dancing? It's about like belly dancing. I'm like, well, it could be, but that's not how I am using it.
I'm just going to go back to CrossFit because it's the most, in my opinion, like totem of just like strength and like push, in my opinion. Someone can be wildly embodied in that, right? But when we're talking about the nervous system, she needs to unclench in order to take in and receive. And that's what also makes women so magical, is that we have that ability to not only, I think we're also as a culture kind of obsessed with ascension, like from, like up here, but what happens with sensuality and then sexual energy too is we bring everything down and in so that we can alchemize it in the space of creativity and creation too. So embodiment looks so different for everyone. It's not X, Y, or Z. It's living, feeling, breathing, moving in a quality. It's giving life to a quality.
What brought you here? And what makes what you do unique?
I have been in the pole dancing world for probably 12 years now. And when I first started, it was the physical exertion, the physicality that drew me in.
It was like a fitness thing for you.
Yeah, like, oh, this is hard. And it is. It is. The physical aspect of it is hard. You know what else is hard too, if you took the physicality out of it, is being with yourself. Is like movement is such a reflection of where we're at. Like if I really want to be honest with myself, if I'm happy or sad or anywhere in between, I go move my ass because my movement's going to tell me what the fuck's going on, you know?
Oh, how
Yeah.
so?
It's a channel of expression and connecting to emotion versus avoiding it or logicalizing it. We can journal all day long. We can sit and meditate all day long. But if you want to move differently in the world, you have to move differently. So if you're in an expansion space, what does that look like in your body? And if you're in a contracted space, which we all go through as entrepreneurs too, what does that look like? The way that you're moving through the world is going to inform so much, you know?
Oh my God, this is so much gold. Okay, so where were you? And
So
how
I'm,
did you get into this? How did you actually discover all this? Because that's how you got here.
if I'm being honest, I went through a really big loss. Like I had a big time of grief in my life and I couldn't move for a while, just like energetically. I just didn't want to. And then one day I did. And that space informed a lot for me. It was so much more than a physical outlet. And I'm talking specifically about pole. But then throughout that journey and how that shaped me as a facilitator and a teacher, and then turned me into a business owner, when I opened the studio, I realized that, like, for so many of us, the harder physicality is a little unreachable. Like, not every woman or person has that type of access to their facility, yet there's so much wisdom there regardless. And I really wanted to find pathways beyond the physical. Like, how can movement be more than just keeping us fit? It's good to keep us healthy and fit, but how can it inform so much more of our life and be an outlet? But there's a better word than that. You know what I mean?
For somebody that has been kind of like I'm just literally starting to dip my toes on this, and not even in pole, right? It's like more on the
Right.
yoga and the allowing things to be easy. And this has been my journey in the last year. And I know that it has unlocked so much magic for me. Like I
Yeah.
was the girl. I wanted to be masculine. I wanted to have muscle. I used to pride myself on like how fucking hard something was and I could overcome it. And right.
Right.
And like now I
Right.
kind of went on the other side on the pendulum and I'm like, I want it to be easy and flowy and
Right.
right, all the things. But how did you decided on what is now what you call the Wild Within Academy? Because that is your unique, this is not pole, this is no yoga, this is you, something that you created, that you're bringing to women, you're bringing to the women into Be Real Life, and you have been wildly successful at it.
When I first started, it was a very solo journey. And that's kind of how my industry has been, not because there's not relatability, but it wasn't community forward. The industry was a community, but spaces, that was probably maybe an afterthought. The community that I have built both in the studio now and Wild Within, there are invisible threads that weave us. And I think that alone allows the system to unclench a little bit and open up. And we do that through being real, being vulnerable, moving through it, allowing ourselves to feel things, allowing ourselves to talk with one another about what's actually going on in our life, celebrating shit.
One of the things we do in the academy all the time is like I ask for wins and people only gonna want to share the $5,000 client, the $2,000 client, the sold out launch, or the 50 people in a workshop. I'm like, okay, when you actually find clarity and you start understanding your brand, that is almost like a non-scale win, right? Like when people say
Yes.
non-scale wins, like
Yes.
wins, like you have to have those tiny daily wins to get to anything that is bigger.
Right. And that their celebration and taking up that space, right? A lot of the work that I do with people, both in the studio and the Wild Within Academy, now one on one with people, is like we're taking up space. And the second part of that is to be witnessed in taking up that space, not just for egoic validation, but
No.
that is the resonance too. And that's like to see and be seen is huge. We then formulate connection and a sense of belonging versus trying to fit in.
Yes.
And that
Oh
is
my
how we
God.
begin to trust ourselves and pick the right clients and go for it and just become more embodied in our entrepreneurship too.
You recently have done something super brave, which is how long you been building your studio and your Wild Within Academy now?
So the studio is going to be 5 in on the 22nd of this month, which is wild to
Oh
me.
my
So
goodness, that is wild. Happy
yeah,
birthday.
especially thank you. Because if we remember 5 years ago, COVID, so we were crushing it. We made it. And the Wild Within Academy is on the online portion. The online school will be a year in the fall. I've been doing international retreats for about 3 years now. So
I kind of want to commend you because you came to me and you were like, I am starting to get people to ask me if I can mentor them. And I don't know if I can. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know. And you took a huge leap to help other women grow their movement. Sure, I'm going to butcher it. Their sensual movement businesses. And this could be Pilates and yoga and pole. And I'm sure there is like a lot of other. What was your calling when you decided to do this?
well, sometimes things just keep showing up and you can either listen or you can avoid. So it was time to
Mm-hmm.
listen. And also just like I am truly lit up by people who are in a position of knowledge and passion and want to ripple that out. Anything risk oriented, if that is the energy behind it, doesn't even feel like a risk to me. Visionaries who want to bring movement and community and creativity and pathways to adults.
For me, what has touched me so much about the journey that you and I have embarked together, helping you bring this to life, there are two things. And I kind of want to bring it back to money and community because
Yeah.
I keep thinking that this shows up for me. This is showing up on all my conversations because this is what's present for me right now, right? And is the fact that a lot of the people on the yoga, Pilates, I think is a little bit different, but in the yoga world, in the spiritual realm, it seems like the movement is in that realm. There is a lot of guilt and a lot of like feeling dirty for charging, for growing a business that is successful, even though they are changing lives and they are offering things that are amazing. And
Yeah.
you have gone through your own journey of overcoming a lot of those fears and allowing yourself to receive. I would love to close it with what that journey looked like for you when it comes to accepting that you can be of help to the world while being successful and making money and exchanging your energy and your knowledge for money.
This is where the connection to self comes in clutch. I think that's what the kids say, right? Comes in clutch. How many times do we do something and it is maybe heart and soul fulfilling, but then on the back end, there's exhaustion, draining, resentment, things like that. And if that's what shows up in a sense of charging or what you're not charging, how are you actually really serving people? There has to be this symbiotic agreement that the energy exchange is within harmony, right? So for me, it was some trial and error. And then I also make sure I surround myself with people and direction and guidance of those that are like, this is what's next.
Yeah.
This is how this happens. I think what I want to share specifically, for me, there was like this sense of stretching my capacity. It wasn't working, not charging. I think as healers, people who provide a sense of healing and wellness, the selling component can feel icky, but what do you need to live the life that you want to live so you can serve the people that you want to live? There's a lot of layers there too, but what if we expanded it into how do we want to live? How do we want to show up at our holidays, right? Do we want to be on our phones and on our emails because we only charge $12 for this thing that should have been $500 or whatever the case may be? Like, how do we want to live? How do we want to move through life? A lot of reflection, a lot of guidance from people that kick my ass in the right direction, and coming back to self. When I get that resentful feeling, when I'm exhausted and don't want to do this work that I love, it needs a recalibration.
How
Yeah.
does that feel in the body?
I am like an action girl. So if there is like resistance or avoidance, I need to do a little rearranging.
I'm going to kind of recap what I got for the girl that is listening to this, right? And she's in overwhelm and she's in all those places. There is this commitment to yourself and to the life that you want to live where some of these practices that Emily shared, like ritualizing, I don't know, having your rocks. And if you're looking on YouTube, you can see them. I have all of my, like, I have so many, and they used to be in my window. And then one day I was like, they're in the window and I never see them and they're so pretty. And then I brought them here, and every day I look at them and they give me joy. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, it's something that reminds me constantly. It gives me joy. That is kind of like what you're saying, right? Ritualize, like putting like me with my pink cups. I
Yeah.
always want to be on brand, right? I always want to have something that is pink or orange. It makes me feel like I am stepping into my power. When you are ready to take it a step further, is truly moving your body and connecting and paying attention to what is happening, and truly giving yourself the time, right? To go pee, to actually
Okay.
stand up from your desk. One of the things I know you probably are going to be like, yes, because of the conversations we've had in the past. I sometimes find myself going almost asleep while I'm actually working. Like, and what I
Mm.
mean by asleep is like I go unconscious, meaning, oh my God, I've been sitting here for 3 hours. I don't even know what the fuck I'm doing.
There's a fine line between autopilot, which is a little bit numb, and flow
Mhm.
state, which is what we spoke about earlier. And I think you can get caught in the autopilot.
Oh my God. Yes. You start manifesting something, or things are going really fucking well, and the clients are coming, and all of a sudden you go again into overwhelm, and now you find yourself in the same place instead. So for example, you started doing the rituals, you started like getting to move your body a little bit, you started to bring all the things, and then all of a sudden things start happening, life is amazing, and then holy shit, how did I get back here again? And I think that is where the awakening happens, is when we can truly stay awake to realizing and having awareness and doing the interruption of that pattern.
And sensuality, just it speaks to everything. We are sensual beings, you know. I'm looking at you right now. I can smell what's happening in my space. I can feel my hands on my skin. It's that accessible, right?
And
It's
it's
taking a
so
moment, taking a
nuanced,
breath. Yeah.
so nuanced. I was listening to some of the podcasts that my editor sends me from mine. And one of the things that I started realizing, it's in the last like few months, I speak way slower, but I
Yes.
don't necessarily have, I caught myself because I listened, but it wasn't a decision. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm also more calm myself.
This is a great thing to leave everyone with, because we do so much shit so fast. Brush your teeth, wash your face. Like, there's so many ways that we can invite in the slowdown and it not feel like that freight train. So whatever it is that you do rapidly, I'm going to use the teeth brushing thing, right? Like, if you can just invite in some spaciousness, some exhale, that is the best way to start inviting in more space for
So,
embodiment. Yeah.
so simple.
It's so simple. It goes right hand in hand with pee when you got to pee. You know, we don't even realize that we are just crushing through life. And there's a time and season for that, especially in the entrepreneurial world. But do you need to do 95 miles an hour to get home every day? No.
No, 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 no. Oh my God, Emily, this conversation was beyond
Yeah.
amazing.
Thank you.
Okay, so if you're a woman entrepreneur and you want to get in contact with your body, or if you're a business owner in the yoga space, in the Pilates space, pole dancing space, but like more on the spiritual
Mhm.
movement side, what else? What am I missing?
Yeah, I've worked with a couple acupuncturists too. So
Oh, yeah,
anybody
please do.
in the realm of healing, moving, expansive living, body-based
Yes.
practices. Yeah.
She is your girl. She is brilliant. Her framework for business owners that we have been working on is just so amazing to help these passion driven people truly live up to their potential, not only make an amazing living, but truly offer one of a kind experiences. So, where can they find you?
You can find me probably on Instagram is a great way to connect. So it's the.sensual.ceo. You can find me there. Yeah, I think that's good.
Yeah. And then you need to come see her at Vibra Live.
Yeah, it's going to
September
be so juicy.
25th, 26th, 27th. Tickets are, guys, we are like 60% sold. I keep saying 50%, but there were like 2 or 3 tickets came in last night. I am leaving for Japan next week, and I'm going to be doing something special while I'm in Japan. So be in the lookout for your emails. And then go see Emily at Instagram and come see her at the event.
Yes. So
Emily,
excited.
this was so fucking amazing. I'm so
Thank you.
excited to have you, and I love you, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. I love you too.